Welcome back. In the last video, we talked about sustainable money, about business models, risk, and runway. You saw that if you want a life of purpose to last, money has to be part of the conversation, not something you ignore or obsess over. In today's lesson, video 14 in our Ikigai course, we're going to talk about another kind of economics that's just as important: your energy. You can have the perfect role on paper, a solid income, and a clear direction. But if you're constantly exhausted, overwhelmed, or burnt out, none of it will feel like Ikigai. It will just be another version of struggle with nicer labels. This lesson is about energy economics, understanding your capacity, setting boundaries, and preventing burnout so that the life you're building is one you can sustainably inhabit. By the end of this video, you'll have a better sense of why energy is as important as money in any purposeful life, how to identify your personal capacity and warning signs, what boundaries really are and are not, and how to start setting them, how to design your days and weeks to support your Ikigai instead of eroding it. Let's start with a simple truth that your manuscript emphasizes: you are not a machine. You can't operate at 100% output all the time. You can't say yes to everything that seems important. You can't hold everyone's needs on your shoulders forever. Your energy, your time, your focus, your emotional bandwidth is finite. Ignoring that fact doesn't make it less true. It just means you end up paying the price later in the form of burnout, resentment, illness, or collapse. Think of your energy as a kind of currency. Each day you wake up with a certain amount in your account. How much depends on your health, sleep, stress levels, and many other factors. Every activity in your day either spends or restores that currency. Some tasks are expensive. They take a lot out of you, emotionally, mentally, or physically. Some tasks are neutral. They don't move the needle much. Some tasks are replenishing. They actually give you energy back. One of the key practices of energy economics is to become very honest about which is which for you. You've already started this in a way with the daily reflections on energizing and draining moments. Now we're going to apply that same awareness more systematically. Take a typical week in your life. Think about the major recurring activities: your work tasks, meetings, commute, family responsibilities, social interactions, exercise, hobbies, screen time, and so on. For each of these, ask yourself, does this mostly drain me, leave me neutral, or replenish me? On a scale from 1 to 10, how much energy does this task or context cost or give? You can even imagine a plus-minus system. Maybe a quiet morning walk is +2. A deep one-on-one conversation with a close friend is +3. A status meeting with no clear purpose is 3. Back-to-back calls all day might be 4. Scrolling social media might be 1 or neutral, depending on how it feels for you. Focused creative work might be 2 in the moment, but followed by +3 because of satisfaction. This doesn't have to be perfect or scientific. It's about getting a feel for your personal energy landscape. Once you've done this, you'll often see a pattern. Your week is loaded with high-cost tasks and very few replenishing ones. Or you might realize that the way you're structuring things is forcing you into constant context switching, which has a hidden energy tax. The next concept from your manuscript that's crucial here is capacity. Capacity is your realistic limit. How much you can give, create, or handle over a given period without harming yourself. It's not a fixed number. It changes depending on your health, your season of life, and what else is going on. But at any given time, there is a limit. Burnout happens when you consistently operate beyond your capacity without adequate recovery. It's not just being tired. It's a deep erosion of your ability to care, to focus, to feel joy. Work that once might have felt meaningful starts to feel like a burden. Every small request feels huge. You might start getting sick more often or feel emotionally numb. The danger on the Ikigai path is that when you finally start moving toward work that matters to you, you might be tempted to treat your passion as an infinite fuel source. I love this, so I can do it all the time. Or, this is meaningful, so I should be willing to sacrifice everything. That's a fast track to burning out on your own purpose. Instead, you need to respect your capacity as carefully as you respect your bank account. You wouldn't keep spending money at the same rate if you saw your balance dropping dangerously low. In the same way, you can't keep spending energy indiscriminately and expect no consequences. This is where boundaries come in. Boundaries are often misunderstood. They're not about building walls to keep everything and everyone out. They're about clearly defining what you can and can't give, under what conditions, in a way that respects both you and other people. A boundary might sound like, I can't take on new clients this month, but I can refer you to someone I trust. I don't check work emails after 7 p.m. I'm happy to help with this project if we agree on a clear scope and timeline. I can join that meeting, but only for the first 30 minutes, and I'd like to know the agenda in advance. Notice that none of these are hostile. They're simply clear. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to saying yes all the time or if you equate caring with self-sacrifice. You might worry that people will be disappointed, angry, or think less of you. Sometimes they will be disappointed. That's okay. Disappointment is not a sign that you've done something wrong. It's a sign that someone had a different expectation. Your job is not to meet every expectation. Your job is to live a life that allows you to continue serving in a healthy way. Remember, without boundaries, your energy burns out. When your energy burns out, your Ikigai suffers, and so do the people you're trying to help. So, what does practical energy economics look like in an Ikigai-aligned life? It looks like building non-negotiable recovery practices into your week. Sleep, movement, time away from screens, quiet, connection. Structuring your day to match your natural rhythms. Doing deep work when you're freshest. Reserving lighter tasks for lower energy times. Limiting the number of high-cost commitments you make at once. Saying no or not now to good things so you can say yes to the essential things. Regularly reviewing your calendar and asking, does this reflect my real priorities or am I getting swept up in other people's? Let's walk through a simple exercise you can do after this video. Take your upcoming week and write down your commitments. Work hours, meetings, appointments, family obligations, social events, planned projects. Then next to each, mark it as mostly draining, I, neutral, arrow, or replenishing, plus. Now look at the balance. Do you see a heavy concentration of draining events and very few replenishing ones? Are your days stacked with back-to-back commitments that don't leave room to breathe? If so, ask yourself, what's one thing I can remove or reschedule to create more space? What's one small replenishing activity I can add each day? A walk, a quiet coffee, a short stretch, reading, a brief call with someone who energizes me. Are there any recurring commitments that no longer align with my values or capacity that I need to consciously phase out? You don't have to redesign your whole life all at once, but even one or two adjustments can make a noticeable difference in your energy over time. It can also be helpful to identify your personal early warning signs of burnout. For some people, it's irritability. For others, it's physical symptoms, headaches, tightness, trouble sleeping. For others, it's losing interest in things they normally enjoy. Knowing your signs allows you to course correct earlier. If you notice, I've been snapping at people more and feeling numb, that can be your cue to slow down, review your commitments, and reestablish boundaries before things escalate. Now, how does this connect back to your Ikigai map and the work you've been doing so far? Think about the prototypes and experiments you're running. Notice not just whether people respond to them, but how they affect your energy. If a particular type of work consistently leaves you feeling good tired, used in a satisfying way, and you can recover well from it, that's a positive Ikigai signal. If another type of work consistently leaves you feeling hollow, overstimulated, or resentful, even if it looks right on paper, that's an important red flag. You can add energy notes to your map. Next to certain strengths or offers, you might write, energizing but requires strong boundaries, or draining if I do more than X hours per week, or replenishing in small doses but not as a full-time focus. Over time, you'll start to see not just what your Ikigai is, but how much of it you can realistically do and in what rhythm. That's what makes it sustainable. Your manuscript also emphasizes that we often overestimate what we can do in a short period and underestimate what we can do steadily over a long period. It's tempting once you get clear on your direction to want to catch up quickly, to load your schedule with new projects, content creation, offers, learning, everything at once. But true Ikigai is a long game. It's less about intensity spikes and more about consistent, aligned effort over years. Energy economics asks you to pace yourself, to accept that a slower, sustainable burn will get you further than a fast blaze that burns out. So, as you think about the next 6 to 12 months of your life, consider not just what you want to do, but how you'll do it in a way that protects your energy. Ask yourself, how many hours per week can I realistically dedicate to Ikigai experiments, given my current responsibilities? What would a sustainable daily or weekly rhythm look like for me? What are my non-negotiables? Sleep, movement, time with loved ones. And how will I protect them even as I build new things? These questions aren't about limiting you. They're about making sure you can keep going. Your purpose deserves that kind of care. To close this video, I want to offer you a simple, compassionate reframe. Saying no is not selfish when it protects the energy you need to keep showing up for what truly matters. Rest is not laziness when it restores your ability to contribute. Boundaries are not barriers to Ikigai. They are the scaffolding that holds it up. You are not just building a meaningful life on the outside. You are also building the inner conditions that allow that life to feel good from the inside. In the next lessons, we'll move into the pivot and long game part of your journey. How to translate everything you've learned into concrete transitions, decision filters, and long-term practices that keep you aligned. For now, be gentle and honest with yourself about your energy. You are not a machine to be optimized. You're a human being whose inner resources deserve as much attention and respect as your bank balance. Protect them. They're the engine of your Ikigai. I'll see you in the next video.